let's go to Delaware real quick, Joe. Standing by Mike Memoli of NBC at where else? The Amtrak station in Wilmington, Delaware. And Mike, I understand you have some word from President Obama this morning.
That's right. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, when we asked Joe Biden about whether the party had moved too far to the left, he described himself as an Obama-Biden Democrat. So an important signal, an important question hanging over this launch is, what will the former president do? Obviously, a very important figure in the party. An Obama spokesperson, not the president himself, but an Obama spokesperson, is weighing in immediately with this statement. President Obama has long said that selecting Joe Biden as his running mate in 2008 was one of the best decisions he ever made. He relied on the vice president's knowledge, insight, and judgment throughout both campaigns and the entire presidency. The two forged a special bond over the last 10 years and remain close today. That's the statement from an Obama spokesperson. So a clear signal of support, not an endorsement. But it's important to note that that's not a statement that Obama has offered for any other candidate entering the race. The president, the former president, wants to maintain his status as sort of a fair arbiter of the primary. But it was important for him to send that signal.
Yeah, and that's about what you'd expect, not an endorsement, of course, at this point in the race. But that will be the most sought-after endorsement. He'll wait to see how the race plays out. Mike, what happens here now for Joe Biden? The announcement is out. What are his next steps in the campaign?
So the Biden campaign tells me, and we can now say that, the Biden campaign, that video today, interestingly, starting with those words, Charlottesville, Virginia, that's the first pillar of three that's going to be part of a rollout of this campaign, the battle for the soul of this country, as he puts it. The second we'll see on Monday, his first public event is in Pittsburgh. It's going to be a union-heavy crowd. He'll talk about rebuilding an inclusive middle class. And then he'll travel to all four early states, building up, talking to voters, and building up towards a major public rally sometime next month that'll talk about bridging America's divides. And so it's interesting in the framing of this video, this talk about Charlottesville, a battle for the soul of America. Joe Biden is not necessarily saying, I'm a candidate who's going to try to appeal to the most progressive elements in the base, to the moderate wing of this party. This is a Joe Biden, get on my back, Democrats. I can take the fight to Donald Trump. I can beat Donald Trump. That's the signal that they're trying to send with this rollout.
And we heard it in the video already. Mike Memoli at the Amtrak station in Wilmington, Delaware, on the campaign trail with, yes, the Biden campaign now. Mike, thanks so much. So, Joe, again, former President Obama saying of his vice president, one of the best decisions I've ever made was selecting Joe Biden to be at my side for those 8 years.
Oh. He's always said that. I will say he did. Steve Ratner, he did send his best people to Beto O'Rourke, who's now at about 3%. So a lot of Team Obama moved very quickly behind Beto. That's not going so well, but he did get a really good Vanity Fair cover out of it that he can always keep in his living room. But I want to go back to the apologies. This is another thing I heard from Democratic leaders all day yesterday, the fear that Joe Biden is going to apologize for everything he's done in public service. And even somebody who was dead set against the crime bill told me yesterday, what Biden needs to say is, hey, you weren't there in 1993. There was a crack epidemic 3-4 years before that. It ripped apart black communities. It ripped apart America. Yeah, I voted for the crime bill. I wasn't going to sit on my hands and do nothing while all communities across this country were ripped apart. And there was, again, even from people who will say publicly, I was opposed to the crime bill. They want to see Biden be defiant and say, you weren't there. You don't know what the challenges America was facing at the time. And yes, we took a chance and maybe it turned out wrong, but at least we tried. I heard that theme time and time again, that if he starts apologizing, he loses. What do you think?
Well, a few things, Joe. First of all, I will agree with you 100%. It's really sad that this is Veep's last season. It has been really great. I did not know that Muslims invented math, but I've learned so much this season, and she's so great, Julie.
You saw Jonah in New Hampshire actually say no more math because Muslims invented math.
Yes. Yes, yes. So anyway,
Yeah. Oh, my God.
It brightens up my week. Look, on the Biden front, a couple things. First, on the apology thing, I agree with you. He did try, you remember, a sort of mini apology on the Anita Hill thing where he said, I wish it had been handled differently. And immediately everybody came down on him and said, you were the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, so why didn't you handle it differently? So that strategy doesn't really work, and he'll probably go down your road. Look, to me, I think there are three things to watch about Biden as this goes forward. One is, can he handle himself, quite frankly, and is he a new candidate, or is he the kind of candidate we've seen before, which, as the previous people who've spoken have said, you know, it didn't obviously go very well. So we're going to see whether Biden has learned from all that and whether he's a somewhat different guy this time around. The second thing to watch carefully is going to be the money, because the money game has changed dramatically since he last ran. It is now very much an online game. He's never done online fundraising. We don't know whether he has enough of a presence to do online fundraising. And if you can't do online fundraising, you're going to have trouble being competitive, because he also never really liked raising money and twisting arms and asking all the wealthy people to write checks. So I think money is going to be an interesting barometer, maybe more interesting than the polls in a lot of ways for a while, to see how he does. And the third interesting real question to me is, where does he position himself? You've got this spectrum ranging from Bernie Sanders on one end to people like Amy Klobuchar, who are very much going down the center lane. And Biden's going to be asked at every press stop, are you for Medicare for all? Are you for the Green New Deal? What do you think about a wealth tax? What do you think about this? What do you think about that? And he can talk about the middle class all he wants, but at some point, people are going to try to pin him down on these issues, and he's going to have to decide where in this constellation of Democrats he wants to fit in.
Yeah, I mean, and Mika, it's just like the no apologies. The guy's been in office for a long time. He can't play to the blue check marks. He needs to be himself. He needs to remember why people in Scranton, Pennsylvania love him, because at the end of this election, we're going to be looking at the state of Pennsylvania as the decider. You look at the 2018 election results, and as much as you can project them on 2020, you have to say Donald Trump's the favorite in Florida. He's the favorite in North Carolina. The Democrats going to, more likely than not, win Wisconsin and Michigan. Donald Trump will win Ohio. You look at his re-election, 31% in those upper Midwest states. Those aren't going to Donald Trump. If Tim Russert were here and was projecting, he would say 2020 is going to come down to Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania. And that is the heart of Joe Biden country. And he can't forget that while blue check marks are chasing him around the campaign trail, trying to get him off his game.
So it's Trump that knows that. There's a piece in Politico this morning that shows the Trump campaign is extremely concerned about Pennsylvania, and they are sending people there now.
They should be.
To Steve's point, Yamiche, and then Mike, real quick. First of all, I don't know if he needs to be a different guy, because it is a very different time. And the time might be right for someone just like Joe Biden. That's what I believe. In terms of the money, we'll watch it. Where does he fit in this lane, Yamiche? Personally, I would think right up against Trump. What do you think?
I think he's trying to position himself as someone right up against Trump. I think it's very interesting that he used Charlottesville to be the center of that video. The president has had, I think, a number of controversial interactions, to put it lightly. But for Joe Biden to focus in on that moment and focus in on the president really not being able to articulate the fact that Nazis are terrible people and that this young woman died and that there were not fine people at a Nazi rally, I think shows us that he's, one, willing to go right up to Trump and say, I'm going to call you out for specific behavior that you've done, but two, I'm someone who's also going to center part of my campaign on race. I think it goes without saying that the Democratic Party is made up of a coalition where black women are particularly important, and to start his campaign by saying that and talking about race, even if it's in this way that's also criticizing the president, I think was a smart move on his part. I think it's interesting also that his campaign put out a schedule just now. It begins with a stop in Pennsylvania, then it goes to Iowa and South Carolina. But then guess what? He goes back to Pennsylvania. So I think there's a recognition just in their first 24 hours that that Joe Biden is saying, I can win Pennsylvania. I'm going to try my hardest to do that. I think it's an interesting position. And of course, those reports that the Trump campaign is worried about Pennsylvania is very clear. The president talks all the time about this great victory that he had, and he did have a very surprising victory, a victory that no one really saw coming, but it was also a victory that was won in very small margins in places like Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania by less than 1%. So the Trump campaign is now really looking at those numbers, and obviously they're a little worried and going back to Pennsylvania.
And again, that Pennsylvania does seem to be where the battleground's going to be, and that's why the Trump campaign's worried about it. I want to underline, highlight, and put big exclamation marks on what Yamiche just said. Telling Joe Biden and other candidates they need to ignore the blue check marks and what the blue check marks say and what the Washington elites say and what the Manhattan elites say. If this class of people had influence over the Democratic Party, Bill Bradley would have been president in 2000. It is Black Americans, it is Hispanic Americans, and it is a lot of people that you're not hearing from now. That won't be heard, in fact, until the South Carolina primary, that determine who the Democratic nominee is. Working class Americans. We talk about white working class Americans. Well, it's white working class Americans. It's black working class Americans. It is actually the type of Americans that Joe Biden has always been able to appeal to. It's good news for him. Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.